How's it going all? I promised it, so now I'm going to deliver. Today I'm going to be giving my impressions of the Novritsch SSE18 after around a year running it as my secondary. This is going to be a fairly informal impression video. You'll see some clips running in the background and I'll just be going over my thoughts. So if that's your thing, stick around. So first off, I just want to give a few sort of disclaimers on the Novritsch SSE18. I did buy it second-hand. I have the Gen 1 version, but it has the Gen 2 MOSFET installed in it. So most of the parts are Gen 1, but it has the Gen 2 MOSFET. I've also spray painted it, quite badly I will admit, but it is spray painted, so that's not the colour that it comes in. So I'm going to start off by talking about probably the biggest pro that I have for the Novritsch SSE18, and that is it's reliable. I think in over a year now of using it, I've had maybe one issue where I let the battery run just a little bit too low and the fire rate went way down and it wasn't shooting properly. So I think in probably a year, just over a year of using it, having only one issue that was my own fault is pretty good. The reason I bought it was because of its reliability and the fact that it is an AEP. I wanted something that I was going to be able to take out in all weathers, all times of the year, no matter how cold it was, if it was raining, anything like that. And I wanted to have a secondary that I'd be able to use, totally reliable, no issues on weather. Gas wasn't going to freeze, wasn't going to expand or anything like that. And honestly, I think I made a pretty good choice. If you're looking for something that's reliable, that you can use at any time of the year, the SSE18 is a fantastic choice for that. The next pro for me is that it's super light. I think on the website it comes out at just under 500 grams or just over a pound, which is perfect for me because I'm obviously carrying around ghillie suit, vest, my sniper, all of that kind of stuff. So having a secondary that's really light and really compact that I can just carry around on my kind of rig without any issues of it weighing me down or anything like that, it's definitely helpful. So super light, definitely a pro for me. The next thing I'm going to talk about is the mag capacity. It's kind of a double-edged sword, this one. So I run it with a extended mag, which Novritsch says on their website that it holds about 100 BBs, and I think that's probably about accurate. It's really good in terms of having an extended mag and just being able to slot one straight in and be able to run it with 100 BBs. The smaller mags, I'm not sure what the exact capacity is. I would say it's probably in the range of like maybe 20 to 30, which is okay. I don't use them, mostly because I've lost mine in the field over the year. But I always found that if I was running with the smaller mags, that I would just run out and I would forget that I needed to fill them up, or I would be in the middle of like using it full auto and then I'd run completely out and then I'd be taken out. So I run it with an extended mag, and I recommend running it with an extended mag just because you're not going to have to worry about reloading quite as much, and it's going to give you a little bit more leeway in how many times you can shoot before you're caught, you know, with your pants down and in trouble. But it's a bit of a double-edged sword. So if mag capacity and burning through your ammo is a problem for you, then they obviously have the extended mags. But if you want something a little lower key, then they have the regular size mags as well. Now, probably the most fun part of the SSE18 is being able to switch it to full auto. I can't count the number of times where full auto has saved me while I've been in the field. It's one of those things where you don't think you're ever going to need it, but then suddenly you do, and you're really happy you have it. There's the argument of not needing it because, you know, maybe you should be accurate with semi-auto and being able to hit people with a few shots. But sometimes in airsoft it doesn't really work out that way. Things are really hectic, there's a lot going on, and sometimes you just need to be able to switch it to full auto. And with the SSE18, the fire rate is actually really quite good in full auto. It's not anywhere near as good as what a assault rifle would be or anything like that, or even an SMG, but it's enough for me when I'm, you know, needing it in 25-30 meter range or closer than that, to be able to just switch it to full auto, spray people down if I need to. So full auto works really well, and I often use it more than I use it semi-auto. And one of the last pros for me, I think, is probably the price. I think it's fairly reasonable. The Gen 2 version is 120 euros or about 100 Great British pounds. And in that you get the smaller magazine, a speed loader, and then all of the other stuff that you would expect, sort of cleaning rods, Allen key, manuals, and all that kind of stuff. I think £100 is a fairly reasonable price, to be honest. It's you'd be hard pressed to find something more reliable, I think, for less. I have other pistols as well. I have a SSX23. I also have a AAP01. My AAP01 was, I think, £80, and I've had nothing but problems with it. I know loads of people swear by them. They're really, really good. The customizations are fantastic with them. All I've had is problems with them, and I haven't really used it since I got it because of the problems. I'll talk about the SSX23 slightly later on in the video when we're talking about sound and things like that. But for the SSE18, £100, €120, I think is a really reasonable price for what you're getting. And obviously on top of that, you need to buy any holsters or attachments or things like that. But for just a pistol, £100, €120, I think is pretty good. So those are the main pros that I have for the SSE18. Now I'm going to talk about some cons, and the first con is that it is loud. I'm not sure if it's loud to other people when, you know, I'm firing at them, but when I'm firing it, it is loud. I haven't got a suppressor on the end. I've tried it with a suppressor on the end at home, and it hasn't really done anything to mute the sound at all. So if you're looking for a pistol that is quiet and you're going to be able to sort of like shoot it without anybody knowing where you are, the SSE18 is not the one. Like I said before, I have an SSX23, which is super quiet. The reason I don't use it at the moment is mostly because it's cold and because the issue with gas and everything like that. I have trouble firing it when it's really, really cold. The UK gets very cold during the winter, so I'm obviously running this right now. But I also have an extended inner barrel in the SSX23, and to cover that I need to put a really long suppressor on it. I have that for a few reasons, but mostly because it's more accurate and things like that. But it's really cumbersome, so I don't want to carry that around too much. Not to say I don't like it, but I just don't want to carry it around all the time. So I'm not too worried about the sound, you know, with the SSE18 being loud, because most of the time I'm not really needing to use it. But if you're anticipating that you're going to be, you know, you're a ghillie and you're hiding in bushes and you're wanting to stay as quiet as possible, I don't think that the SSE18 is going to be the one for you. I think you should probably be looking for something like the SSX23 or other brands are available that are more quiet than the SSE18. Another con that hasn't been too much of a problem for me until very recently, check out my last video, probably my last video for that, is that it has quite low FPS. I think on the website it says roughly around 200 FPS, and that's because it is an AEP and they obviously run with a lot lower FPS. I think I probably get around 180, maybe 185 with 0.25 gram BBs. This hasn't really ever been a problem, like I said, until recently, where I noticed that if somebody is moving really, really quickly, I miss basically every shot that I'm taking at them because they just don't get there in time. So yeah, it does have fairly low FPS. I don't know that it's going to be too much of a problem, especially if you are just using it at close range and, you know, you're not expecting it to you know, fling them out there, fling BBs out there really, really quickly and get to their targets really, really quickly. It might not be a problem for you. It hasn't really been a problem for me, like I've said, but I definitely thought it was something worth mentioning because that is obviously a consideration that people have when looking to buy a pistol. I think another thing that's important to talk about is that you're not going to be lifting heavyweight BBs with the SSE18. I run it with 0.25 gram BBs. I would probably at a max push it to 0.28 gram BBs. You're not going to get any heavier than that, I don't think, without issues of being able to hop them. With the SSX23, I can probably push 32, maybe, I would say, without really any problems. But the SSE18 definitely cannot hop, I would say, any heavier than 0.28 gram. So you're not going to be cutting through thick bushes or ferns or anything like that with it. That's not really what I use it for anyway. If you're using your pistol, you're probably able to see the person. They're probably pretty close to you. But I thought it was worth mentioning that the max I would try and run it with is 0.28 grams. The next one for me is probably more of like a personal thing than it is an actual con, but I think the iron sights are kind of crap. I don't really like them. I don't feel like I get a very good picture from them at all. I know I could put a red dot on the top, but I just don't want it catching on clothing and things like that. I don't want the problems of it getting shot out or anything. So I don't run a red dot, I just use the iron sights, and most of the time I just hope and pray that I'm hitting close to the person. It's usually fine because they're close enough that it's not that much of a problem, but yeah, I personal opinion, I think the iron sights are pretty crap. This last con is probably the biggest frustration for me. It might just be a Gen 1 SSE18 problem and it might have been fixed in Gen 2. I've never used a Gen 2 one, so I can't really comment on that, but for the Gen 1 version, I found that the trigger response, especially when I'm on semi-auto, is really sluggish. I have to be really mindful and really make sure that I'm pressing the trigger hard and quickly, and I feel like the breakpoint is quite far back when I'm trying to shoot, so there's a lot of travel time when I'm, you know, pulling the trigger, moving it back forwards again, and then pulling it again. There is quite a lot of travel time there, so I found it to be quite sluggish. It's not a problem with full auto, which is most of the time why I use full auto, is so that I don't have to worry about the sluggish trigger response. But I thought it was something worth mentioning because I know a lot of people, when they're looking for pistols, they want something that's really snappy, and the SSE18 is not something snappy. At least the Gen 1 version. Maybe the Gen 2 is more snappy. It's worth trying a Gen 2 version if somebody on your field has one, just to see what the trigger response is, just to see if it'd get on okay with it, or just be mindful that you'll probably have to run full auto if you're not wanting that to be too much of a problem for you. So those are all the cons and obviously the pros at the beginning. I'm going to just go over like a few more considerations that you might want to take into consideration when thinking about buying a SSE18. The first one is the shooting distance, or the distance that it can shoot at. I found that on a full battery it can probably shoot up to maybe 35 meters accurately. That's not a problem for me, so I didn't want to put it in the cons or the pros section, and I wanted to put it in the considerations one. When I'm using my pistol, because I run a sniper as my primary, when I'm using my pistol, it's because they're in my minimum engagement range, so they're between, you know, 0 and 25 meters. So the fact that it can push out to 35 meters accurately without any issues is fine for me. If you're wanting to run a pistol that's going to shoot more accurately at further distances, this probably isn't the one for you, but I just thought it was a consideration to add because I've noticed that it's a problem past that distance, but again, I never really have to use it past that distance, so it's not so much of a problem for me. My last two considerations to make are kind of a 2-for-1. It's firstly the appearance, so obviously it's based off of a Glock. If you really like the Glock appearance, you know, you'll love this. It's great, it's really accurate, so sort of like what Glock might look like. I'm not too worried about the appearance of the pistol at all. It's not really a big thing for me. I'm more interested in how it functions, but I know a lot of people are really interested in how their gear looks and looking like a specific setup. So if Glocks are what you like, then that's great. This'll fit you really well. The second part of that is the color options, really. So you've got 4 color options with the Gen 2 version. You've got like a green and black color option combo, a black, you know, totally black color option, a tan, which has got like a black upper and then a tan lower, and then a grey, which is all grey. They're fine. The color options are good. I would really like to see a full green or a full tan color option as well. The mix and match is cool in a way, but me wanting to run, you know, something that's a little more concealed, something that works with ghillies and things like that, I'd really like to see a few more color options. A few sort of like flat green and flat tan would be really good, because otherwise you're kind of running with something that's mostly green, and then there's that big bit of black that's on the top of your gun, and it might give you away a little bit if somebody's close by, or if you're pointing at them and things like that. So I'd like to see a few more color options, but it's not too bad. 4 color options are pretty good. You could always spray paint or you know, paint the upper if you needed to, but that's definitely a consideration to make before you buy it. So there you have it. There's my year in review of the SSE18 Gen 1 version with Gen 2 MOSFET. Just want to say, obviously this video was not sponsored. I wasn't paid to talk about this at all. I just thought it would be useful. A few people have asked for it, so I wanted to just kind of like give my thoughts on the pistol and let you know my impressions after a year of using it. This video has obviously gone on long enough now, so I'll let you go. But thanks very much for watching. Really appreciate it. If you have any feedback on this kind of style of video, if you want me to maybe talk about my Steyr Scout as well that I use as my primary in this sort of style, feel free to leave a comment and let me know. If there's anything else you'd kind of like me to talk about in this style of video as well, let me know. If you didn't like it, also leave a comment and let me know that, so that I know to not upload this kind of content in the future. Thanks very much for watching. Take it easy. Catch you in the next one.